From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Finding the good.
I think everybody I talk to see the goodness in other people and how this brings it out.
How one producer in North Carolina is finding a bright spot amid the ruin caused by Hurricane Helene. Improving soil health starts with asking some important questions.
We're not looking at a Band-Aid.
What you need to know to flip your soil. As harvest takes a chilly turn, a look at areas that could be seeing their first frost or freeze right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. More farmers choose Pioneer brand corn because it delivers game-changing yields. Join a winning team. Pioneer brand corn. Your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Many areas could see their first frost or freeze conditions of the season. The National Weather Service forecasting temperatures will dip into the 20s and 30s, bringing the coldest air since spring to parts of central and eastern U.S. Now, portions of 20 states will be affected, including Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, and the Dakotas. Even parts of North Carolina that were devastated by Hurricane Helene will feel the dip in temperature, with freezing or near freezing temperatures through Thursday. Forecasters say temperatures should return to normal by Saturday. The first frost or freeze of the season isn't expected to have a big impact on harvest unless crops were planted late and weren't fully mature, with USDA providing an update on how harvest is going. It says corn harvest is now 47% complete. That's 8% ahead of the 5-year average. Soybean harvest also racing ahead. Now it's 67% complete. That's 16% ahead of the normal pace. Cotton harvest stands at 34%, 4% ahead of average, while winter wheat planting running a bit behind at 64%, 2% behind that 5-year average. And we're learning more about what we could see this winter weather-wise. NOAA now predicting a weaker La Nina to bring a warmer winter across the southern and eastern U.S. This could result in wetter winter storms in these regions rather than snowier conditions. You can see on this chart, forecasters see a 60% chance of it happening through November. This year's possibly weaker event contrasts with the colder, wetter winter of last year, which was dominated by El Nino. And here's a winter scene sure to send a chill down your spine. This was taken at the Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire. It's reported the summit has received just over 4 inches of snow and a dense coating of ice over the past few days. The area seeing snow, blowing snow, and freezing fog, leading to whiteout conditions. Meanwhile, summer-like conditions continue to linger across other parts of the country. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has more on the wild weather.
I want to take a quick look at the precipitation outlook. This is the 20th through the 24th. Now, thankfully, we are drying out where we need to dry out, and that's going to be towards Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia, where we're looking at below normal chances of precipitation between the 20th and the 24th. But you're starting to see that gradient where you got to the below average or drier than normal conditions on one side of the country, and then starting to sneak in there is going to be another trough. Now this is going to come towards the end of this time period, so the 23rd and the 24th, with this trough moving from the west to the east. That's where our rain chances will start to increase across the nation, and cooler weather will be on the way. But it is going to be a bit of a break from the cool weather, the heat coming back, and they're going to be relatively dry for nearly a third of the United States, with possibly some wet weather into Oklahoma, but also into the Dakotas, stretching all the way back off to the west coast as well. And have you seen it? What's on your screen there? A rare bright comet will be visible, of course, clear skies permitting. Dan sending this in from Nebraska spotted it. Look for it soon after sunset, usually about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you want to look to where that sun just set on the western horizon. After Earth's flyby, the comet will head once again toward the solar system's outer fringes. And I'll have more on your local forecast, not your space forecast, coming up in a bit.
Ag officials continue to tally up the damage from Hurricane Helene. The University of Georgia College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences announcing a preliminary damage estimate of $6.46 billion to the state's agriculture. The university saying the figure represents the sum of direct crop losses, losses to businesses that support ag and forestry, as well as workers in those related industries, and recovery and restoration from the storm. Now, Helene was the third named storm to hit Georgia in the past 13 months. In Florida, Hurricane Milton carved a path through the state's orange orchards in the central part of the state. Experts say it's still too early to know the extent of the damage, but say there is a significant amount of fruit on the ground. The latest production report done before the hurricanes shows Florida's first all-orange forecast for the season would be down overall 16% to 15 million boxes. Now, one Market Watch expert says Florida's orange production has dropped by an estimated 92% in the past 20 years. Adding the drop can be attributed to natural disasters, including freezes and hurricanes and citrus greening. California is reporting 5 more possible human H5N1 cases. The state's health department reporting the cases were identified in the Central Valley. It says the individuals all had direct contact with infected dairy cattle. It has already confirmed 6 cases of the virus in humans in the state. All told, they say the human cases originated on 9 different dairy farms. All had mild symptoms and were not hospitalized. Officials say evidence continues to suggest only animal to human spread of the virus in California. Happening right now, many grain shipments traveling via rail to Mexico have been stopped. Mexican Rail Consortium, Ferromex, and U.S. railroad company Union Pacific say they have stopped issuing permits for some grain rail shipments moving through Eagle Pass, Texas. That's after a recent train derailment in Mexico closed the track. Reuters reporting this latest disruption adds to a string of grain freight rail backlogs at the border, including El Paso and Eagle Pass. The Union Pacific says the suspension will remain in place until the current train lineup is cleared. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the country's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is reaffirming her country's ban on the planting and consumption of GMO white corn and is continuing to emphasize the country's commitment to food sovereignty. The stance continues to challenge U.S. trade policies under the USMCA, with the U.S. having filed a case against Mexico's policy.
Flip Your Soil on AgDay is brought to you by ESN. Hear why farmers across the country trust ESN to protect their nitrogen investment and maximize yield. Learn more at smartnitrogen.com.
Whether you're a farmer or a rancher, you can implement conservation or climate smart ag practices on your operation to flip your soil and improve productivity. Now, conservation groups and NRCS are working together to provide financial and technical assistance to help producers adapt new protocols and technology to sequester carbon and improve soil health.
I would say that every sustainable or regenerative or conservation practice that you can implement, no matter how big or how small, is important.
Now, there's no silver bullet, but instead producers need to take a comprehensive approach to climate smart agriculture.
What's your primary resource concern? What's your objective? What's your future goal? Where have you been, importantly? It's not just we're not looking at a Band-Aid. We're looking at trying to learn about a farm or a ranch or a particular project holistically, if you will. Know the ins and outs, the advantages, the disadvantages, the tools that we have at our in our tool belt, and some of the things we might be missing.
Now, he says that way conservation groups and NRCS can work with farmers and ranchers to achieve their soil health goals. Coming up, corn and soybeans fight to stay above some key benchmarks. We'll take a look at whether prices can improve next. And later, the daunting task of cleaning up following a hurricane. One farmer shows us what he's facing on his North Carolina farm in the country.
Scan now to register for the Milk Business Conference 2024. Early bird rate expires October 31st.
Corn continued to push lower as November soybeans moved below $10 again on Tuesday. AgDay's Michelle Rook lets us know if there are any signs of recovery in markets now.
Another down day in the grains on Tuesday. Vince Boddicker is back with analysis, and Vince, it felt like a risk-off day really in the entire complex, but let's pick this apart just a little bit. Soybeans, we've received some better weather forecasts in South America, so I know that's part of it, but we also had CONAB come out with some big estimates for Brazilian production too. Did that also pressure that market?
Definitely. I think, early in this season, I think we get that just like we do here, Michelle, that there was going to be a big crop and nothing's going to happen to it. And just coming off of some worries about drought, you got to think that concerned some of the longs that were there, or some other ones that maybe had gotten out of short position, say maybe it's time to put it back on if the crop is going to be that big.
So corn also under pressure. Is that just because of harvest, or, we had the implosion in the crude oil market? How big of a factor was that?
I think the crude oil market is part of it. I've got to think that looking at the harvest pressure is part, we're not near as far down on the corn. And I think as we get going through, the corn is going to be a much larger, put it this way, much closer to estimates on where they thought they would be than the beans are.
Yeah, and wheat also looked like it was taking out some weather premium.
Right. I think technical stuff on that one, and also improving weather as we look at Ukraine and Russia, and also into the southern plains, possibly getting some more rain this weekend.
So what do you think about from a technical standpoint here? Have we done technical damage to any of these grains right now? What are you watching?
No, I don't think so. Beans got close on Tuesday, but they did not do it. They get probably 95 cents off the high in those first couple contracts. Then you got to be concerned. Corn market, I think as long as you can stay above 395 to 397, you're okay. The wheat market, you could take that all the way down to about 570 or so before you really start getting concerned.
Yeah, do you think the funds are back selling?
Good possibility. I think we'll look at some open interest numbers on Wednesday morning, and that'll help answer that question.
Okay, thanks so much. Vince Boddicker, Farmers Trading Company. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
All right, look at that jet stream, and again, that trough is going to be moving away from the United States with a ridge building in. So a little bit ago, we looked at the rainfall chances once this ridge establishes itself on the East Coast, and that's going to happen 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. So let me put this into motion. The jet stream coming up on Wednesday, there's the trough moving out and the ridge starting to build in. Not really a blocking pattern. Would be talking about what's called an omega block if we had this cutoff low down here to the south, the ridge, and then another trough down here towards the south. That would set up a blocking pattern in the jet stream, and really things would start to become pretty stagnant across the United States. I don't expect that to happen, at least not with what I'm seeing today in the data. Now, by Thursday and Friday, everything kind of keeps moving with that cutoff low, that trough moving out, that ridge developing across the United States, and this next trough coming through this weekend. So that's going to be Saturday and Sunday for parts of the Dakotas, also here towards the Four Corner states. So by Monday and Tuesday, this low is going to work off to the east. Now, the one thing I am seeing in the data is behind this trough, behind this cutoff low, what looked like a cutoff low for a little bit, there's not a lot of cool air. I don't anticipate widespread freezing conditions behind this front or behind this system. It actually gets back absorbed to the north before another ridge builds in. And this time of year, typically when we're talking about ridges, that keeps a lot of the cold, dry air from dropping down out of Canada. So we go down to the surface. This is Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the morning. I do have the jet stream lines on here, and so we can get an idea of what's going on at the surface, but also way above our heads as well, about 30,000 feet. As I put this into motion Wednesday and into Thursday, you see the ridge, but also what's underneath it. Nothing. A ridge of high pressure means dry air, potentially some cool air, but it will warm up pretty quickly, so above average conditions underneath that ridge. With the rain chances kind of isolated to this cutoff low on the East Coast and then back over here towards the West Coast as well. This is the energy that we're going to keep an eye on, as I'm expecting it to go more to the north than through the United States, something that we've been talking about going all the way back to spring in this kind of pattern. So this circle here, that is going to be your ridge. The energy, again, is going to have to work up and over this weekend, depending on how strong or how deep this trough gets. I just don't think it's going to be enough to really nudge out that ridge of high pressure or have it kind of come back down. So again, it's looking like a ridge of high pressure developing both Saturday and Sunday. We got a cutoff low developing off here towards the west, which is going to keep things quiet for an extended period of time back here towards the Midwest. Start off with New Haven, Michigan. Partly cloudy, high of 53 degrees, low of 32. Strang, Oklahoma, sunny, high of 67. Sharon, Virginia, partly cloudy, high of 58 degrees.
More good news when it comes to pork exports next. And later, rebuilding after the storm, how one producer is being forced to prioritize repairs in his North Carolina farm. U.S. pork exports posted another strong month in August. The U.S. Meat Export Federation says exports totaled almost 239,000 metric tons, up 6% from a year ago, but the second lowest of this year. Export value increased 8% to almost $703 million.
Led by Mexico on a record pace year to date. Central America as well continues to see significant growth, up 31%, a little over 11,000 tons in the month of August.
Hallstrom says in August, South America as a whole was very strong for U.S. pork exports, and he's forecasting records on volume and value on the pork side globally, with the fourth quarter expected to be the largest export volume season of the year. A popular program promoting Iowa pork is growing. The Iowa Pork Producers Association has now agreed to name, image, and likeness deals with all 19 Iowa State University student athletes that participated in the Purchase More Ham and Bacon video tryouts. Now, each of them is getting paid by Iowa Pork to help encourage consumers to purchase more ham and bacon, along with other pork products. They include more than a dozen members of the Iowa State Cyclone football team, which, by the way, is currently 6-0 and ranked 9th in the country, along with 4 members of the Iowa State women's basketball team. For a full list of all the players taking part, check out this story over at porkbusiness.com. Fall is a beautiful time of year to enjoy all of the colors of nature. But for tree owners in North Carolina, damage from Hurricane Helene is overwhelming. That story next in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Winfield United. Unlock the full potential of every field with Winfield United crop protection solutions, built from decades of research. Built for success, built for you, built for it. Learn more at winfieldunited.com.
We're learning that downed trees are a big part of the damage from Hurricane Helene, especially in North Carolina. The North Carolina Farm Bureau talked with one producer who says he's never seen this kind of damage on his farm.
We had about 6 or 7 inches of rain for the whole week, about 6 inches for the actual storm event. The amount of work it's going to take is I've never seen. I'm 63, and since we've been farming here, I've not seen anything on this magnitude. Lots and lots of trees on fences, 40 or more, and then there's probably at least that many or more either in roads or out in the middle of the pasture, which aren't an immediate concern to us. Those we'll get to them when we can and when we can figure out how we're going to do it, because they're so large and the tops are so big, we don't have any equipment big enough to handle those. Easy, girls. Come here now, come on. The other thing where I live, at the other farm where I live, is we had used EQIP cost share program a number of years ago, about 15 years ago, to fence all those cattle out of the stream and put them on well water. So when the power went out, we were out for 5 days. That's the first thing, is making sure you get water to them. We had plenty of grass and plenty of hay to feed them, and just finding a place to put them where they get water. Luckily, we got a 3-acre pond there, and I had a little pasture that I could put 60 mama cows in 3-acre, 4-acre lot for a couple of days. They watered there, and then I had some other pasture adjacent, and then the power came back on. The hard parts have just been getting the fence stood back up right now. Just doing the absolute minimum we have to get to where we can get a current and charge on it to where the animals will stay on the place. Probably the brightest spot in all of this, I think about the state that our country's in. And what we were worried about a week ago and what we all talked about seems so minuscule now. And the number of neighbors that came and checked on us, the number of people we went to, we carried water to people, and I think that has probably done more for me personally, and I think everybody I talked to see the goodness in other people and how this brings it out.
And our thanks to the North Carolina Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all of our time this morning. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day. Have fun.